Well, good afternoon, fellow constitutionalists. I've been 2 days trying to do some videos as far as rebutting what Senator Bernie Sanders said in his Medicare or Medicare, I guess it is, town hall, Medicare for All town hall. And it just amazes me. One, of all the falsehoods that he's basing his premises on. Two, that he didn't bring anybody on that disagreed with what he had to say. And three, even the foreign doctors that he had on the panel weren't honest about what was going on in the country. So I'm going to have a small series. I'm going to do 3 videos here because one video would be like 2 hours long, and I don't want to do that to you. And these shorter ones need to be as short as possible. So this first one, we're going to deal with what Bernie Sanders talks about is Bernie Sanders says 30,000 Americans die each year without health insurance, or if we repeal, Sanders claims that 36,000 people die a year if Obamacare is repealed. And I have this article, one of the best ones I found on this. It's actually refuting all this. And the town hall, Bernie Sanders town hall, was put on by the Young Turks, and it was Cenk Uygur who was heading the whole thing up with the foundation he's with and everything. But one of the videos I'm taking clips off is his video where they're actually supporting this on the Young Turks, and they put it on the internet because Bernie Sanders says the regular media outlets wouldn't hold this. And it's no wonder because the regular media outlets didn't want all the backlash that's going to be coming his way over the next days, weeks, and months because of all the falsehoods he was saying in this. So I have this article from the Associated Press that was in the Washington Post, and I want to give a hat tip to Reading Eagle that sort of got me onto this, and I read one of their articles. But before we get there, what I want to do is go down, and I want to start this off with a clip about what Cenk Uygur said on the Young Turks about the 36,000 that are dying. So let me get this clip set up, and I'll play it for you real quick here.
Town hall that Bernie Sanders just had in Washington, D.C. A little bit later tonight, in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to have Nina Turner on Rebel headquarters to talk about Medicare for All and what our revolution is doing to fight for it. She's the president of our revolution, which was started by Bernie Sanders. We'll also have some people who started watch events for this town hall. Curious to see how that went as well. All right, so Jimmy Dore, Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola with you guys, and I want to go through what we just heard there. So I've got it broken down into a couple of topics in my head. So let me start with numbers. So we just watched Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All town hall, and a couple of numbers stood out to me. First of all, 36, I wish it was only 36,000 people died last year and die every year because they don't have health insurance in America. Just let that sink in for a second. 9/11 was a little under 3,000 people. So that's 12 9/11s per year. But since it's not a spectacular event, it's not one covered every day, it doesn't happen to 36,000 people at once, we just ignore it. But it is a fact, it happens every year, and so it's unbelievable.
Now, this idea that 36,000 people die each year, Bernie Sanders is putting this out as a fact, that die each year, without insurance, or if Obamacare is repealed, 36,000 will die each year. And my question is, where do they get that figure? Because I couldn't find it. I researched it, and the only thing I found was what I'm going to share with you here. All the links will be up in the video down below the video. And this is one thing real quick here, a side note. The Young Turks barely do this. They didn't do any of this for the Bernie Sanders town hall. They didn't put names of the guests were on there. They didn't put links Bernie Sanders didn't cite one study in all of his pronouncements throughout his town hall. But I want to get into this here real quick here. It says, how was that 36,000 calculated, and is it credible? For context, more than 2.6 million people died in the United States in 2015, or nearly 7,200 per day. So Sanders is suggesting that the repeal of the law would increase the number of deaths by 1.4%. He obtained a 36,000 figure from a calculation by Think Progress, a left-leaning website, according to his aides. Essentially, Think Progress assumed that a repeal would result in 29.8 million people losing their insurance, and that one person would die for every 830 people who lost their insurance. That yields a number of 35,903. So is this an estimate based on two other estimates? Or, excuse me. So this is an estimate based on two other estimates. How credible are the two other estimates? And this is something you have to be thinking about. It's very dubious when people do this and they make these estimates or these assumptions based on other assumptions, folks. Now here we go. Former President Barack Obama's administration says that about 20 million people have gained insurance because of the ACA. We've done some digging on this number. Conservative analysis have raised questions about it, but it generally seems to be in the ballpark. Surprisingly, more of the increase in the coverage comes from the expansion of Medicaid, not the creation of the exchanges for individual insurance. The larger number of 29.8 million comes from an Urban Institute report that assumes that Republicans will repeal part of the law or part of the law through the reconciliation process without outlining any replacement plan, thus leading to a near collapse of the non-group insurance market. That's a pretty big assumption. Moreover, one cannot assume that everyone would automatically lose coverage. One recent study has indicated that nearly 30% of the gain in the insured comes from people who are already eligible for Medicaid. This is known as the woodworker effect. In theory, these people still would be eligible even if the expansion of Medicaid were repealed, although the authors of the report dispute that, saying the woodworkers effect took place precisely because of the policies in the law. In any case, nearly 30 million is certainly a high estimate. And in that study, in that Urban Institute study where they're talking about this woodworker effect, that's exactly what went on. That's what exactly went on. These people that were of age, I think 55 or older, you can automatically get on Medicaid, and then you have to wait till your retirement age. Mine is at 67 now, where you get on Medicare. And that's two totally different programs. Now, let me read on here. The other part of the calculation is even more problematic. It stems from a study on the effect of the Massachusetts healthcare law implemented by then Governor Mitt Romney, Republican, not the Affordable Care Act. The study compared the changes in mortality rates for adults from 2001 to 2005 to the rates from 2007 to 2010 after the law was implemented. The research indicated that for every 830 adults who gained insurance, there was one fewer death per year. But the study clearly noted that we don't have the individual level insurance information and thus cannot directly link mortality changes to persons gaining insurance coverage. Moreover, it said the results could not be directly applied to the Affordable Care Act because Massachusetts differs from the rest of the nation, including the lower mortality, higher income, and baseline insurance coverage rates, fewer minorities, and the most per capita physicians in the country. And I was reading other articles that were on this line. They got more specialists up there. They're wealthier up there per capita in Massachusetts. So to extrapolate these figures from Massachusetts to go clear across the country and apply that across the country, to me, is something that we certainly should not be doing. And this is what Bernie Sanders and Cenk Uygur said as a fact. I just showed you that video clip. It's a fact that 36,000 people die each year because of lack of health insurance. And that's just not shown to be the case, because what they're basing their numbers on is erroneous. It's false. You cannot base an assumption on a couple other assumptions and come out with a hard and factual number of anything. And then finally, so we keep this this video down just a little bit, certainly the effect of changes in the health insurance market on the death rate is an important issue in the debate over Obamacare, especially if Republicans pledge to keep everyone covered fall short. But we often warn readers to be wary of scare tactics that lack context. Sanders has tweeted as a fact an estimate that A, assumes Republicans will gut Obamacare without a replacement, and B, assumes the worst possible impact from the policy, and C, assumes that data derived from the Massachusetts experience can be applied across the United States. Those are three very big assumptions. Take away any one of them, and Sanders' claim that a repeal of the law would cause 36,000 people to die a year falls apart. Originally, this sort of fuzzy math makes the claim dubious, but think progress in calculating the number at least said this, many people could die. Sanders insisted that it's a fact that 36,000 will die. That's worse. And Cenk Uygur said the same thing if you watch that video clip. So again, it just amazes me how many people out there are falling for this chicanery that is going on, and how it's, again, you cannot base your assumptions on other assumptions that are not in evidence. You cannot extrapolate what happens in one state and apply it to the rest of the country. The only reason why you would do that is for scare tactic purposes, folks. That's the only reason why you would do that. So again, be careful when you listen to these politicians out there, folks, when they say one thing and about health care or whatever you want to talk about. And Bernie Sanders in this town hall towards the end says, talks about, well, this is the only thing you guys get free over there in Europe, is it? You get free education and free this and free that. Everything's free, 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 right? So again, it just amazes me, folks, how he thinks he can get away with this and not be held accountable or not be taken to task for that, folks. Well, this is the end of the video, folks. I'm Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. See you in the next video, and God bless.